All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back for another awesome episode. We have another incredible guest with us. We have Blake Parado in the house. He is the owner and head coach of Parado Power in Honolulu, Hawaii, and he happens to be strong as hell. He is a 480 squat and a 556 deadlift, if I'm correct. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, Blake. I
Yeah,
don't want to. I don't want to butcher the numbers.
that's probably from one of my pin posts. Yeah, I actually labeled it wrong myself. It was actually
Okay.
485 after I looked after it.
485. Not doing yourself
I
enough
didn't even give
justice.
myself credit. Yeah.
Well, regardless, along with that, you've got some incredible transformations of your own. I have no doubt you've done it for countless number of clients, and you're going to have tons of really good, helpful tips from your own experience and in your own journey and helping others. So, welcome.
Thanks, Brian. Happy to be here.
Okay, very happy to have you. I think it's really important for everybody who is listening, like who consistently shows up. They got to hear from good professionals in the field that are all saying similar stuff, but we all have a little bit of a different take on certain approaches. And I think when we were talking a little bit in Real Coaches Summit, I'm like, this guy, he gets it. He gets it. And I'm like, I want to get him on the podcast. So let's kick it off with I know that a lot of your messaging, like when I was doing the research on you, looking you up, a lot of your messaging with Parado Fitness is about like longevity, having fun, building community. And when it comes to that, what would you say that's like probably top of the list of priorities for people who want to get in shape for life?
Yeah. So, when clients first come in, I don't think it's initially top of mind, but initially when people come in, they just want to either lose weight or they have some kind of health scare and want to get healthy right away. I
Yeah.
think most people would think there's like almost an all or nothing approach to fitness where they either have to go all in hardcore right away, work out every day, or they just do nothing at all because they feel like there's no in between. And like I usually stress to my clients, um, for people like us, like the fitness professionals, most of us like working out every day. That's why I work out every day and stuff. For 90% of you, that's probably not going to be the case. But you guys know fitness is important to you for your health and everything. And fitness is going to make your life better. So I stress to people, yeah, like for longevity, like find something that gets you results and gets you progress, but something that you semi enjoy doing so you can keep doing because whatever results you want to get, you got to keep doing the thing that got you the results to maintain those results.
Exactly. Because, I mean, it's so common. We see it all the time, right? People love to hop on the new thing and try a million different things and never really get good at one.
Yep. Which is funny from my end because I try like lately people are like, oh, you're trying a bunch of different things. And it's like, oh, I've always kind of tried different things. I just never really posted them. Um, but yeah, especially when it comes to nutrition and stuff, people want to hop on like detox teas or do fast and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, that's gonna get you results quickly. It might help you lose weight, but do you see yourself keep on? Can you do that forever? If the answer is
Yeah.
no, and it's like then what's gonna happen when you stop that thing? And they usually kind of figure it out themselves. Then I go back, or they've done it before already, right? Like they've done mini fast and detoxes and stuff, and just reverted back to the way they were, or got worse.
Yeah. And for anybody who's listening and not watching the video, Blake was doing the air quotes during the results because we know when if we're talking about results, like if we're talking about long-term change, it doesn't really do much. It's like little splash of what we think we want to see, and then it comes back worse than before.
Yeah, it depends what they mean by results. Yeah, like people think results is just a number on the scale or something, and it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, long-term results is just being in a better place, being in a spot where you know what to do and you actually do it. Um, and then yeah, even if people have like physique or aesthetic goals, it's like, well, you're going from doing nothing to want to jump all the way in. How long can you sustain that? How about we get to a place that's kind of in a happy medium where you learn the habits of what to do, and then if like you have an event that you really want to look good for, like a wedding or something, then you already know what steps to take. And if you want to take more extreme measures, you know you can do it for a short term, get to where you want to be, and then kind of come back to moderation, which isn't so far removed from your usual lifestyle.
Yep. It's kind of like I mean, you follow Ram, right? Like
Mhm.
his whole shtick is 4 weeks to the beach. So it's like we always kind of want to be in that place where if we need to dial it in, we can, and we could like feel really good for some pictures, but it's not like, okay, got to lose 100 pounds tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that to bring it back a little bit, I know that your own personal story when it comes to fitness and nutrition and all that, you were kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum that a lot of people find themselves where they're trying to lose weight forever, but you were the skinny kid growing up, right?
That is correct. Yeah. Yeah, I
Now,
heard a lot your recent stories. Most people like Alex and Daw, I think recently you had on. They're
mhm.
kind of other end where they had a big weight loss journey. I was definitely the other way around.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, my brother's kind of built like that too, where he just can't put on weight to save his life. And I've been in situations where I'm trying to put a little bit of weight on, and I gotta say, the other end of the spectrum is no fun either. Trying to
Actually,
force yourself to eat. So, what did you think made the biggest difference for you when it came to trying to hit your own fitness goals and put on muscle and things like that? Because I think a lot of the people who are on that side of the spectrum don't get as much love and as much attention when it comes to the advice.
yeah, there's not a lot of sympathy when we say, yeah, I have a hard time gaining weight or I just can't eat enough or something. Um, but yeah, besides amongst each other. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, like that journey kind of happened when I was going into, well, growing up, I was always a super skinny kid and I ate kind of a lot, I think. Just
Mhm.
never really put on weight, just probably just from being active most of the time. I played sports growing up, mostly focused on baseball, but even going into like my freshman year, I was already my fully grown-ish 5'7", but barely over 100 pounds. And the varsity coach said, hey, if you want to eventually play varsity, you better put on some weight. Luckily, I had a really great lifting coach right as I started high school freshman year, Coach Clay.
Mhm.
Right away taught me how to see stress form and well, working hard, dedication, and really stress form. The first thing I did on day one was learn how to squat, but with a broomstick. And I think he had me do like 10 sets of 15 or something, and it had to be perfect every time. Um, that was not too fun. You would think it wouldn't be that hard to squat a broomstick, but for like 150 perfect reps, that was quite sore.
I bet he sees your stories with you with over 400 on your back looking pristine. And he's like, I did that. That looks great.
Yeah, I don't think he's on social media very much, but like I still keep in contact with him and yeah, once in a while I see him, thank him and stuff, and show him like the stuff I'm doing now that we never would have thought ever that I'd be in
Yeah.
powerlifting and stuff like that. But yeah, he really stressed form. I learned the barbell lifts really early, so I've been doing like squatting, benching, and deadlifting ever since I was 14, just not specifically for powerlifting. So I think I got a good jump start there. The first weight of I was lifting like 5 days a week for like 2 to 3 hours all the way through 4 years of high school. So just doing that. Eventually it didn't help me very much for baseball after like the first year. That's where I kind of learned like there's a point of diminishing returns of always just being in the weight room. But I wasn't very
Wait, so
good
you mean
anyway.
to
So
tell me you don't just keep getting stronger, 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 and all of a sudden you turn into a freak athlete?
yeah, I mean like
I
yeah,
thought that was the formula.
because yeah, like going into like freshman year, I could barely like hit the ball out of the infield. I could barely throw the ball to first from second, playing second base. And then, but for I'm not sure. I think in Hawaii the baseball season is towards the end of the year, so all through the beginning of the year I was just lifting and um practicing and stuff. And then when inter tryouts came around, I think I hit like the first home run in my life in like our inter squad scrimmage, and I was like, "What the hell happened?" And even my teammates were like, "Where did that come from?"
What a
And I was like, "Oh,
dinger. Didn't see
must be
that
all
one
the muscle."
coming.
Yeah, I was like, "Wow, I've never seen the ball go that far." And then
So,
so I was like, "Oh, that must be from all the lifting weights because I put on like 15, 20 pounds in that first year." It's like, "Oh, if that was good, more must be better." And I kept getting stronger and stronger in the weight room, but the baseball skills kind of petered off after the first year, or even maybe declined a little. Probably got a little slower towards my last years.
yeah. Is that when power development came into play, or was it one of those where it took a few years to figure out that?
No, and I never really made that connection until later on as I became like a trainer and learned more about yeah, as power develop learn more about like speed and power and stuff. And I was like, oh, that's the kind of like the missing link. And around the time like this is like I graduated in 2006, so that's when kind of like CrossFit started getting bigger. Functional training started being a thing, but back then functional training was more like balancing on Bosu balls and stuff like that. Um, a lot of
Hashtag
well,
functional.
yeah, balancing on Bosu balls and balance trainers. So there was either end of the spectrum still. It's kind of like hardcore lifting, bodybuilding, or CrossFit, or like really toning it down to the point of like physical therapy kind of training. Didn't really start to bridge yet. And so yeah, I think I kind of on that point, I kind of came into the fitness industry right around, well, always been in it, but really became like a kinesiology major and all that around 2010-ish. So that's when kind of like everything was kind of bridging together from like bodybuilding, CrossFit, functional training. And so I got a good exposure to everything. And I was like, oh, when I kind of looked into power, I was like, how come all the lifting didn't really help? And it's like, oh, I can do kind of got to make it more like sport specific or learn how to not just lift heavy weights, but move weight quickly and stuff like that.
Yeah. Did you get your hands on some Louis Simmons stuff and try out all that fun jazz? Like I forget his terminology for it, but like where it's like you have a strength day, you have a
Mhm.
speed day and all that.
So yes, I went to powerlifting around the same time as I started personal training in 2010. So I looked into like West Side and all that. They have like dynamic effort days and maximum effort days.
That's it, dynamic. I'm like, I know that he said it in a different way, but same concept.
Yeah, conjugate method, yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, but most of his programs kind of was geared more towards like equip lifting. So and it involved having like chains and bands and stuff. And I didn't usually I lifted by myself, so I didn't want to have to set all that up by myself. But the
Yeah,
concepts
good
were
luck getting in those suits by yourself.
yeah, that too. Yeah, so I only did raw lifting, so I still kind of learned the concepts and still incorporated like speed deadlifts and speed bench and stuff, but not full on like a con or the way that Louis Simmons wrote it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I think everybody kind of took his stuff and put their own spin on it because the basis of what he said is very, very true and produces results. But if you go too far down the West Side rabbit hole, it's like, all right, some of this stuff's pretty risky.
Yeah, and then yeah, and people kind of intertwine the meaning, right? Like West Side uses they have their version of like the conjugate method, but people kind of just call any kind of conjugate method West Side, but really it's like West Side, they have their real own specific way of doing things. Just because you have a dynamic effort day and a max effort day, which most people probably don't do it quite correctly anyway, doesn't mean you're doing like West Side, you just kind of conjugating or undulating your training.
Yeah. And I think stuff like that, especially, it's so easy to fall into the trap of you gotta exercise this way, you gotta exercise
Mm.
that way. And we see it all over social media where it's like you gotta do things the proper way. And it's like, is there a proper way? Now, people listening probably have heard that multiple times. What's your take on that when it comes to like squat, bench, dead? Does it always have to be barbell, or is it like there's room for interpretation?
No, I usually tell my clients and even my trainers and interns that there's no perfect form except for mine. But I was joking on that part. But yeah, there's like, and I tell people there's no such thing as perfect form. You can always improve. There's also technically no wrong way to do an exercise. I say don't ever say if you're obviously going to hurt yourself, then it's probably wrong. Um, there's just might be a better way to do each exercise for your goal. For like squats, for example, I usually when I squat for powerlifting, my goal is to hit depth and get as much weight as possible. So I'm going to hold the bar a certain way that gives me the best leverage, like a low bar squat, do a more hip dominant squat because that's what I'm stronger at. Whatever form I have that makes it be able to lift the most weight. And the tempo doesn't matter, just do it the most efficient way, probably a little faster drop than most people would do it. Um, and at a certain and got to hit a certain depth right for it to count in the meet. That's probably not the same way I would have a client squat or even someone who's advanced but doing a squat more for bodybuilding. If and there can be argued if barbell squat is even good for bodybuilding, but just for the sake of argument, we'll say a bodybuilder wants to squat. They're not going for a 1 rep max. If they want to focus more on their quads, they're probably going to do a little more higher bar squat, a little more quad focused squat. Knees probably travel more forward, maybe a narrower stance, maybe use the heel, and probably a lot different tempo than I would use it. So people can be in the same experience level. Someone else can be lifting for 20 years, but their squat would look completely different to mine. And one way is not better than the other or more correct. It's just mine is more specific to my goals and and one's more specific to their goals. And then to go back to your question of if they have to use a barbell, I don't think you have to use any piece of equipment unless it's for your sport. Like I have to use a barbell because it's part of powerlifting. They won't let me go up there with a safety squat bar. Or
Yeah, I'd
or
love to see
split
what
it
they
up.
would say if you're just like, can I swap it out?
They do have different bars though for different lifts, but that's a totally different conversation. But yeah, like
Yeah,
outside, unless it's required for your sport, find the tool that lets you accomplish whatever movement, like a squat, in the way that's more proper for your goals and or your limitations. If you have really tight shoulders and can't hold the bar on your back, um, then your limiting fact, then the pain of your shoulder or being able to hold it there is going to limit your mobility more so than getting a workout in like your legs. Um, Again, if you're yeah, if we can't get to squat properly or without pain or get low enough to accomplish our goal without weight, probably need to work on the mobility or just call it body weight or a kettlebell or something to help build up that mobility and stability before we even throw a bar on our back, if we even ever throw a bar on our back. Um,
exactly.
Taller
I'm glad.
people for clients,
Mhm.
taller people tend to do better. Well, taller people tend to do better with like front squat variations or safety squat bar variations. So I have those. Um, you can play with different stands, different positions of the bar. There's so many different ways to squat to fit it to that person.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, right? We need to fit the exercise to the person, not fit the
Mhm.
person to the exercise because of that false thought of like, hey, it needs to be done the right way or the proper way. And it comes down to being more goal specific than anything, it sounds like, where it's like, what are we even doing it for? Is the
Mhm.
question that I think a lot of people don't really ask themselves, where it's like, what's the purpose of this? And as trainers, we're always kind of thinking that when we're writing a program. But for the average person who kind of just does their own thing, what would you say for that person? Like, how would you start writing their program? Or if they're just wandering the gym, what would be like the first thing to think about?
First thing, if it's just like a client starting, figure out what we can, well, what their goals are first, and then figure out what we can do. Because most people come in with either past injuries or limitations, and it's like, okay, let's see how we squat, and just do a squat or two, or yeah, assess their squat, kind of like a FMS-ish screen. But um, when it comes to screens and stuff, I don't tell them that they're getting assessed or anything like that. I just want to see how we move. Don't give them a score or anything, because if if you have everyday general population people running through an FMS screen, everything's pretty much going to be a 0 or 1. um,
Yeah. It's funny how that happens across the board.
yeah.
Given too many FMSs where it's like, all right, what are we doing here?
Like, I don't think I've ever seen a 3 on pretty much anything from a general population client.
I've
Definitely
only
across the
seen
board.
one solid three squat, and it was from a high school like gymnast.
Yeah,
That was it.
definitely not over 40, mom.
No.
But yeah, figure out the starting point, and then kind of figure out from there, okay, can we squat body weight? Can you squat? What have they done? And then plus what they've done before, right? If they've never squatted in their life, don't need to jump straight to a barbell. If they're very rarely do people who like powerlifting and stuff before come in, but if they've already kind of experienced coming in and can squat with a barbell, then go straight to the barbell. Um, it's not like it's impossible to teach anybody how to barbell squat. I'm pretty sure as long as they can put the bar on their back, even if it's their first time lifting, most of us as coaches are probably skilled enough to teach someone to barbell squat. But um, it's like if you've ever seen people barbell squat for the first time, it's kind of like deer legs and shaking around at first, and then you have to do a whole lot of cueing for something that we may not need to do right away. If you just scale it back to something like a goblet squat, I think it was Dan John that kind of emphasized that it pretty much just fixes itself. And especially since
Mhm.
we do like semi-private style training at our gym where we have multiple people running at once or going at once doing their own program, the less cues we can use and more self-correcting and self-limiting exercise we can do, the better. If we've got 4 people working out, all doing barbell squats for the first time and one trainer, things can get messy really quickly. You
Oh,
got,
yeah.
but if you got like 3 people goblet squatting, only one person barbell squatting, um, the people doing goblet squats just need some cues and the form will kind of correct itself while you can maybe spot the one person that's barbell squatting.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And
things that kind of correct itself. Yeah.
yeah, and on that topic, I know that a lot of people are super duper concerned about their form because they're like,
Hmm.
I don't want to get hurt. I want to do this right. But we kind of know, again, as trainers, you don't need to really be perfect on that first try.
Hmm.
Like, what's your stance when somebody's trying to like figure out a movement? Like, what are some things to like reinforce the fact that, hey, we're learning, but don't keep going if you feel this or that?
Oh yeah, definitely. So like first, like sticking on the squat, kind of, especially if they haven't worked out before or felt like the workout pain and stuff before, or like a burn before, they kind of freak out. It's like, okay, if you feel like the pain or the tension in the muscle and just kind of like point to like in your quads or your glutes, that's fine as long as it's not like a 0 to 10 screaming pain. But if it's like a gradual like burn, that's fine. If you start to feel it in like your knees or your lower back, like in the joint where it's moving, then that might be a time to then err on the side of stopping and asking if that's okay, rather than pushing through it and making it worse. We can always just be like, oh no, like I mean, I doubt the pain in if they tell me their knee hurts in the squat and they stop and ask me if it's fine, I highly doubt I would tell them, oh no, that's fine, keep going. But yeah, to them, that's the kind of pain to kind of err on this. Like that's when you should stop and ask, like, oh, should I fix something? And when it comes to like correcting form, again, I stressed in the beginning that there's no such thing as perfect form. And I use myself as an example because they see my videos. And it's like I've been doing barbell squats for 22 years now, competed over 20 meets, so and have state and national record for my division for squat. And I still film myself, and I still have a powerlifting coach that gives me feedback on my squats, and he still finds things that he can tweak. So it's like, so if I can still find things to tweak on my squat, I can probably find things to tweak on your squat. But I'm not. But again, if they're, we don't want to just keep giving them a cue or not a correction every single rep because then they're going to be overwhelmed and not remember anything. So I usually tell them we're going to address the biggest thing first, whatever we see, get stronger there, and then every time you come in, we'll probably work on something a little more different.
Yeah. So if anybody listening right now is watching these YouTube videos that go in depth and give you 20, 30 different things to work on, take
Mm.
what Blake just said and just do one thing really, really well. And then the next time you come in, work on another thing and get that down really, really well. Never, no one ever gets a picture perfect squat day one, right?
Rarely ever. Oh, and again, there's no such thing as a perfect squat, right? So
Yeah.
there's always something we can change or improve. Even if someone does textbook form, then it's like, okay, we can just change the tempo up a little bit. Or usually that perfect form of their body weight, and we throw some weight on them, then some things start to look a little different and say, okay, now it's not looking so perfect anymore. For the
Yeah.
air quotes again for whoever's watching. I forget that
Yeah.
mostly it's podcast audio. Um,
Oh, it's all good. This goes on YouTube too. People will see you.
oh, good, good. They can see
Yeah.
my Dragon Ball,
Oh,
mature
yeah.
Dragon Ball collection in the back. There you go.
Absolutely. And now, when it comes to what we were just talking about with the squatting and with anything really, it's very easy to get to that place where it's like, okay, I feel like I'm doing everything. And then all of a sudden, age comes into play and everything just changes. I know that a lot of people I talk to, I know for you probably run across the same types of people where they're like, I used to do this when I was in high school or in college, and it just doesn't work anymore. Like I keep getting hurt. What would you say are some big things when people hit? I think it's pretty much like the 40 mark when stuff starts to hurt and things don't feel the same. What are some common issues that you come across, and how do you go about fixing them?
Yeah, so there's like two situations here. One could be someone coming in over 40 or on the older side, um, that says, oh, they used to lift in high school or in college and could squat all the way down, no pain and stuff, and but they haven't been lifting for 10, 15 years, and then they try to squat and stuff, and now they can't quite get into the same position as before. Things are hurting, like knees are hurting and stuff. And then it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, like a lot has changed in the past year. Like when they were in high school and college, you're probably moving every day, going through ranges of motion. But since then, when's the last time you actually like sat below parallel or reached for shoulder, reached over your head? So after not visiting that range of motion for a long time, and you suddenly go into that range, try to go into that range of motion, your body's like, hold up, I don't know what's going on here. So it's gonna like lock up, um, stop you from doing that because it thinks you're gonna hurt yourself. Um, and then now like every time you try to do it, if you don't build the stability or mobility for the range of motion, it's going to keep doing that until you can address the issue. The thing is that if they've been squatting or been active before, they kind of know how to push through it more than like a brand new client that's just coming in for the first time in their 40s. Brand new client never worked out in their life. Usually their body kind of shuts itself down and doesn't let it push past certain points. But the previous athletes and stuff, they kind of have that mental capacity to push through, which is good and bad because they'll push a little harder, but then in the beginning, it's like they're pushing through spots where they haven't quite earned back yet, and then that usually just that steps brings them further steps than they might like. There's also the other
Yeah. And
situation where someone has been continued lifting and like all the way through, like someone like us or me who have been like I still doing powerlifting and stuff and haven't stopped really lifting, but aches and pains just start creeping up. And a lot of times it's too, it's again, there's no such thing as perfect form, but if all you so if and you might have slight imbalances that maybe you can't see or it's just so minor. But if you do if you the constant repetition with a slight imbalance or deviation accumulates over time, and then the pains start coming. So myself, perfect example is I kind of neglected my single leg training for probably the last 5 years of powerlifting or so as I got busier, and all of my
like any
training was
true power lifter.
yeah, literally like a lot of my like 99% of my workouts was just squatting, benching, and deadlifting with because that already takes long enough if you've ever done like a powerlifting program. Like I can just squat and bench, just do squat and bench, and that would take over 2 hours. Um,
Yeah, I think a lot of people listening are used to the go, 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 like never, never
mhm.
rest. When you guys do like a true powerlifting program, you're lifting so much, even though it's only a couple of reps, you are dead for like 5 to 10 minutes.
That yeah, there's that, and there's people, especially when they first start powerlifting, they may not be like dead after the set, but you got to learn how to rest because when you go to the
Yeah.
meet, if you do an attempt, you gotta wait like 10, 15 minutes until you do another attempt. So it's like you do one rep, then you sit around for like 15 minutes and do another rep. And if you're used to like 30 seconds rest between sets, you're like not you're just kind of like pacing back and forth,
Yeah. You're like
wearing out your
jittering,
nervous
like,
system. Yeah.
come on.
So yeah, a lot of the newer powerlifters like they're so antsy and like not used to just sitting around and waiting for their next lift. And then by the time and meets can like a full meet can last like 6, 7 hours. So by the time from your first squat to like your last deadlift, there could be like a 7 hour difference. So by the time like deadlifts come around, they're all like fried mentally and stuff because they've been like pacing back and forth for like 6 hours straight. Um, but yeah, so
But then you rip the shirt off and you're all hyped up again. And you're like, all right, I
yeah.
got this now.
Get some slaps in the face from other like your coaches or friends and stuff. Um,
Exactly.
but yeah, like so most of my training I've neglected single leg training, and then even kind of noticed that one leg was getting bigger than the other leg, and like my right leg was a lot stronger and bigger, and then even started to get like knee pain in my left knee. Um, I think it's because I noticed like myself, I kind of noticed like I was having more and more of like a hip shift, and my body's kind of crooked as it is, but just not addressing that hip shift and not doing single leg training. I think I tried to even it out on one squat and then kind of tweaked my knee. It wasn't like a serious injury, but I was like, oh, that's different. And then it's like, but it's been, and that only happened a couple years ago. So that's almost 10 years into powerlifting. And it's like, but I've been consistent the whole time, kind of squatting fairly the same and trying to improve. But how come these now injuries are creeping up, even if I'm not technically doing anything wrong, like like overtraining or anything like that? And it's
Yeah,
like,
but
hey,
it's interesting you bring that up though with the asymmetries because I think a lot of people do freak out a little bit, like their chiropractor or whatever tells them, "Oh, one leg's longer than the other, and you got to fix this or it's going to be a problem." And it's like it really isn't until it is a problem, right?
hmm. Yeah, there's no like just like anything else, there's no blanket statement, right? Like things about like posture or asymmetry, like you said, like there technically is no bad posture, like what the studies say, like okay, like just because you're rounded forward and stuff like that isn't directly associated with pain. But from the experience, it's like, well, everybody that has bad posture also has pain. Everybody,
Yeah.
it most for the most part, people who have better posture tend to have less pain. There's probably some correlation there.
Yeah, because it's interesting. Anytime we try to get out of pain, it's usually, why don't we try and even this out? Or why don't
Yeah.
we try and improve posture? And you're like, all right, so where's the balance there?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like I think it's like if you have quote unquote bad posture, really rounded forward and stuff, you probably have some back pain and you have back pain. Just straightening yourself out and standing like that. And that's the only change you make. It's not going to make that back pain going away. But things like working on like your posterior chain, working on your upper back muscles, your core muscles, stretching out your hip flexor, you'll naturally have a better posture, and those things that kind of naturally gave you a better posture will very likely help with the back, help take the, not take it away, but make the back pain feel better.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things. Like, I know you brought up Dan John. Like, one of his big things too is like farmer carries, and people all of a sudden when they do farmer carries start working on the upper back muscles because it
Hmm.
supports holding heavy stuff, and then all of a sudden their back pain goes away because they're finally working these muscles that have been stretched and lengthened the entire time that because they're weak.
Yeah. So again, yeah, it's like things that, yeah, just having better posture technically isn't associate like isn't going to make your back pain better, but the things that give you better posture will very likely from experience.
Yeah.
And I'm
I
sure there.
think I think if your posture is like a reflection of your weaknesses and you
Mhm.
work on those weaknesses, that's probably the more like productive route to go rather than stretching the tight areas. Like really hammer the weak areas.
There you go. Yeah.
See, we're fixing this posture issue right here on this podcast.
There you go. Yeah.
But yeah, that
Yeah,
was
you're always
a
gonna have
very
some asymmetries. Yeah. It's just that um like the human body is not completely symmetrical to begin with, right to left and probably even forward to back. And I always had like a little bit of scoliosis where I kind of lean to the right and stuff. But as long as you're not exacerbating it, or it's like that asymmetry is not directly causing pain, and you're doing things to make sure it doesn't get worse, tend to find just from experience that just having like it's okay to have those asymmetries. Everyone's gonna have something.
yeah. Everybody's gonna be a little bit off. We're never born perfect. Like I think what was it with the hip surgeries, there's like 200 or 300 different options for people for hip replacements because that's how many different versions of a hip there are. It's wild.
That's a crazy
So
number.
yeah. So if you guys, and that's why, like, if we're going back to the squats again, I'm just gonna title this "How to Squat Perfectly." But when it comes to like squats, for example, some people think that they should look like somebody else when they have different anatomy. Like if somebody has
Mhm.
a super deep hip socket, they're going to be leaning over a lot more than somebody that has a super shallow hip socket. But you can't really see that because it's under the surface.
Yeah. I mean, you can do a full-on assessment and do like some kind of like hip scouring. I think Phil might have talked about that, or he does that. And I
Yeah.
kind of learned about it in the CPPS, Joe DeFranco certification. Um,
Mhm.
that's a good one to do if like you want to get that level with the client. But one of the things that made me go to personal training route and not like therapy or massage therapy is I don't really like to touch people. So most of my assessment and training involves not touching the person unless absolutely necessary. Um,
Same here.
usually, and I tell my interns and stuff, yeah, if you truly want to find a way to like the ideal stance for their squat in terms of getting the deepest and maybe generating the most power, then yeah, a hip scour or just having them lie on their back and kind of bring their knees to their chest and see where it kind of naturally lies, and you can adjust in and out from there. But usually just watching them squat, um, seeing where the limitations are and adjusting their stance, I can find a pretty good perfect squat width for them pretty quickly. And even then, it's even if you have a squat width that gets you the deepest and allows you to generate the most power, that may not that's not necessarily going to be the way you squat all the time. Some days you might want to squat a little narrower, a little heel elevated, emphasize more quads, even though you're stronger with a wider stance. So if you're even though you're stronger with a narrower stance and more upright stance, maybe you want to do a cycle where you stand wider and do a more hip dominant squat. Because again, going on the asymmetry part, if you squat the same way every single time forever, you're gonna gradually start to like shift things around and find. And if you video yourself over time, you'll find that hey, now I'm starting to shift this way, or hey, I'm starting to like lean forward this way, even if you don't consciously think about it.
Yep.
Um, but by mixing up your stance, mixing up your grip, you can kind of not completely like eliminate it, but you can kind of address like those weak points before they happen and keep everything a little more balanced.
Yep.
Um,
And I like that you brought up the video because I think that's one of the things that people are so hesitant to do, but it provides so much good feedback. Have you ever done a video, for example, where you film yourself and you're like, that felt like absolute shit. And then you look at it on video and it's like, whoop, flew right up.
yeah, definitely in the beginning. Now I kind of have a good feel for like the RPE
Yeah.
of how it looked and but in the beginning it's like, wow, that felt really heavy. Like, um, maybe it's like an AMRAP set or something, and I'm like starting to like lose vision on like the fifth or sixth rep and feel like it's going really slow. And I was like, okay, that was an RPE 10. And I look back on the video, or my wife would tell me that was like an 8. I was like, no, I was like gonna pass out. And I look at the video, I was like, wow, that last rep was actually pretty fast.
This is
Um,
why I'm so happy my girlfriend is not in the fitness realm because it's too easy for them to hurt our egos in that way, right? If she knew RPE or reps in reserve, I'd be like crying every night.
yeah, actually, my wife like never wasn't into fitness until a couple years after I started dating, and I got more and more serious about personal training. Then she wanted to try, and actually, she used to be more of like a runner. She ran cross country and stuff. Um, Never really lifted weights. She would just go to like our 24-hour fitness had like the women's only section upstairs where they just have back then they were back then that sounds so old. Back then they had a women's only area where it was just cardio machines and like light weights, and then I think she would just go with her friend a couple of times to just go on the treadmills and talk story. But after like I did a couple years of powerlifting, she kind of got interested and wanted to try. And actually, we actually made a deal. She said if she does her first powerlifting meet with me in the beginning of the year, I have to run the Honolulu Marathon at the end of the year. And I've never ran
Ooh.
more than like 2 miles in my life, or and at that point I wasn't running at all. But I was like, if that gets you into powerlifting, deal. And then she ended up doing the meet, did really well. But after the meet, she's like, I actually don't want to run the marathon anymore. She likes lifting better. And then she's like, instead of doing the marathon, how about you just take me to Vegas? And I was like, I guess so.
Done.
I'll make that sacrifice.
Was
And then
she was she at Real Coaches Summit?
yeah, but she wasn't really attending the talks and stuff. She would
Okay.
kind of doing her own thing, and then she came to like the one of the dinners, I think the last dinner, but wasn't really hanging out during the summit.
Yeah. Honestly, like I know every single thing that I've been at as far as conferences, I've seen people bring their wives and their girlfriends, and I'm like, it depends on the location. It's a good thing Aram loves Vegas because
Yeah.
if it was in the middle of nowhere, that'd be a little brutal.
Yeah, at least she went around and did shopping or had stuff to do, and she likes Vegas, so or we both like Vegas. Pretty much everyone from Hawaii likes Vegas, so
Oh, is that a thing? I didn't know
yeah, that's
that.
why Vegas is actually called the ninth island in Hawaii.
Really?
Pretty
So
much
how far is that? Like trip wise?
about a 5.5 hour flight, about the same time to get to
Okay.
California, which is pretty much the closest place we can fly to.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean I was in Jersey and it took about 6 hours, so about the same. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. Oh man, we covered a lot. I'm like looking at my notes and I'm like, damn, we got that, we got that, we got that. The
That was
only
pretty much
thing I
all
really
about squats.
pretty much, we kind of went off on squats. So anybody that's interested in squats, they're gonna love this. But I have two more questions for you. Number one is what makes for a good gym mascot? Because it looks like you got a very good one.
Well, our gym mascot is our dog, our first dog, and he's still alive. We just got a new puppy, or I guess she's not really a puppy anymore. She's like a year and a half.
Okay.
We have two dogs now, one on each end of the spectrum. Our older dog that's on the wall and like most of my videos and stuff is our dog Kobe, and he's about 15 years old.
Oh
And then we
boy.
have a younger golden retriever puppy. But yeah, I don't what makes a good gym mascot. I guess something that just reflects the type of vibe you want to put out. So um, for us, our gym was definitely more beginner fitness, or people who like it's a place we call the tagline in our website is like we make serious fitness seriously fun. So um when going through the fitness industry and growing up and stuff, it's like you either found a gym that had great equipment and like a hard training and stuff, but the environment may not have been the most welcoming unless you like knew the people were there, like more hardcore bodybuilding and powerlifting gyms, and or it's like equipment's really dusty and dirty and stuff, which I don't mind, but most people probably don't
Yeah,
want
we
to deal
love
with.
that,
Yeah,
but it's not for everybody.
yeah, but they'll have like really good equipment and like serious training. And even us trainers, like people who are, I guess, deemed like smarter trainers who focus more on like functional training or like are really good at barbell and kettlebell movements and stuff, tend to be on like have like a more hardcore image, especially on their social media and stuff. Um, or there's other gyms that have a really great environment, but didn't really have and had like clean bathrooms and all that really good like customer service, but maybe the training wasn't the best if there was any training
Yeah.
going on, but people just enjoyed being there, being part of a community. Um, and those trainers probably had and coaches of those gyms probably had like a lot of clients and stuff, but maybe didn't have a really great like exercise science background or um I think one time I had a trainer that had like a lot of clients and was like one of those that people just really like being around. Um, and was it on the older side? And then my partner asked her about what do you asked her about progressive overload, and she asked what's that? And and she was probably a trainer for like over like almost 20 years or something. And then we were like, oh my God.
Yeah. The
Um,
barrier for entry is just stupid low in this industry. So the fact that you've been able to get the best of both of those is awesome. And more gyms need to be like that, where you have all the knowledge, but you also have the environment.
yeah. I guess to go back to going back to the mascot, like most places have pretty like scary like they want the hardcore looking like murals and stuff like that, or like people fighting or whatever. They have egos and stuff like that. And even like my gym was a different gym before, and he had his logo coming out of the wall, but it was like an all black wall, black and red, which was pretty much the color of like 90% of gyms back then. They were all black and
Mhm.
red. Um, and I was like, I'm just gonna flip this around and like paint the whole wall white. Um, made the whole gym, all the gym walls white so it looks brighter, not so dark. And when my wife asked what should we have on the wall, and I was like, how about our dog Kobe coming out of the wall? Like that'd be pretty funny. Wearing like our Parado Power shirt. And then it's like, why don't we have like, and then me and my wife were really big on bacon. We used to like to try to come up with all these different bacon recipes. I think we had a whole day where we had bacon in every single dish that we made from breakfast all the way through like dinner and dessert. So I was like, oh, why don't we have like bacon flying out of the wall too, just because. And then she's like, okay. And then her sister, my sister-in-law is an artist, so she came down and like painted all our murals for us. Um,
That's sick.
and then we just thought it'd just be funny. So that way it's like the because people are already scared to go to the gym, especially when they're first starting out. It's one of like the biggest step is like taking their step into the door, or maybe even
Yeah.
step out of the house first and then stepping into the door. So I wanted like the first thing to see is a giant dog coming out of the wall with flying bacon, to kind of just set the mood right there. Um,
Hey, it breaks the tension.
yeah, so I tell people, yeah, it's like we take fitness, like we're gonna do like serious exercise in here. We're not just gonna like bounce around on trampolines and stuff like that, or just like yeah, we're gonna do some serious fitness in here, but it's like we keep it loose. We tell joke. We want fitness to be a big part of your life, but not be our want fitness to be an important part of your life, but not be your whole life. So the main idea is if you walk out of here feeling better than you came in, mission accomplished, and we're getting a little better every time, taking a step towards our goals, then that's all we can really ask.
Love that. Love that. And actually, I think I know I said I only had two left, but I'm gonna name this. That was 1A. This is 1B.
Mhm.
How do you guys like to make fitness fun? Like, what are some things that you guys do that might not be in like serious suit, like really gritty kind of gyms that has helped you keep people really fit, but at the same time really enjoy it?
Yeah, so again, like challenging but not overwhelming people at first, because for us, like most people in fitness are there are some people that love like being in a pile of sweat or even borderline throwing up after a hard workout. Most people, at least that come to our gym, don't actually enjoy that and don't want that. And there are some sadistic people that actually enjoy being sore the next day, or to the point where they can't walk. I'm not one of them. For
Yeah,
me, if
you
I
and me
get through
both.
my I tell the clients like for me, it's like if I get through my squat and deadlift workouts and stuff, and I'm not sore the next day, but I hit all the weights I wanted to hit, that's a win.
Yep.
I don't like being sore. It's gonna happen, especially if we change up programs a little bit, or if they haven't worked out in a long time. It's gonna happen, but that's not the goal. Um, and then we keep things loose. Tell just have them laughing, joking. I try to get my trainers to get them to laugh. Um, and within like the first get the client to smile or laugh somehow within the first 5 to 10 minutes of the workout. Um, and then all the usual or not actually I take it I kind of take it for granted our trainers do too, where said the usual of like customer service, like saying their name as soon as they walk in, um,
Mhm.
all that good stuff. We guide them through everything. We supply everything. We have one of the best parking in anywhere in Hawaii.
That should just be on the website. just the parking situation because there's so many gyms out there that have like such trash parking that's impossible to find a spot. But the fact that you guys got that, that's huge. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I think one of our business coaches actually said we should put that, and it's like, ah, that's kind of we like but yeah, it is literally like the best parking, and that is the hardest thing to find when you're opening a
Yeah.
spot. That's affordable and stuff. And we're in like literally in the heart of town of Honolulu, like right outside of Waikiki. Have you ever been to Hawaii?
I have not yet.
Okay.
It's on
Yeah.
the
There you
list, but
go.
you
Okay,
can
so
bet I'm going to try and get a lift there when I do visit.
guarantee, yeah. So yeah, Waikiki is like where most of the people who are like visiting or tourists go on Oahu, and we're like 5 minutes out of there. So um very easy to find. But anyway, keeping things fun, yeah, just again challenging people, sticking to the basics movements like squatting and benching. I mean, squatting and pushing and pulling, lunging and all of that, so that they're getting smart training and progressing,
Mhm.
but changing, like keeping things interesting, changing things up, and different people are going to change things up more frequently. Some people would like to change things up almost every time, which it's yeah, for most of us, we tell people, hey, you got to do the same, stick to the same movements for X amount of weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, get stronger, and then change it up. But it's like for some people, like they're just not gonna like doing the same movements for that long. Like, whereas I'm on the extreme end where I can do the same barbell squat for 20 years straight and still not be bored. Most, if I gave my program to our clients, then 99% of them would quit after like a month or something.
Yeah, they're like, all right, I've done how many of these already? On
Yeah.
to the next.
But yeah, mixing in variety while still keeping like a smart progression, and that's going to vary from person to person. Telling jokes and all that. Tell oh, what did my intern tell me? My um my intern told me I am the master of dad jokes in the fitness industry or something like that. And
Well,
that's
we now I gotta ask, what's the best one? What's the one that lands every time?
oh, the one that tends to get a huge eye roll, or like they don't get it at first and then they laugh, is like usually we do a lot of sled work. And I especially like pulling the sled. Um which is funny. Like knees over Ben Patrick really stresses like sled pulling, but I've been doing that way before and kind of explained to him why it's like good for their knees and stuff, but like couldn't really put it as eloquently as he did. And when he explained, I was like, oh, that's exactly why. Just you explained it way better than I did. But anyway, yeah. So usually, like if we're ending with like a sled pull, like pulling backwards after like the first round, I'd be like, oh, how was it? How is it? And he's like, they're like, be like, oh, it's not bad. I was like, yeah, I was like, I know it's a little bit of a drag, but it's good for you. And they'll take a couple of steps and then be like, oh my God.
Damn, I wish I knew that one back when I was in person training. Ah, so many missed opportunities.
And other ones are
Uh,
probably like tricep push downs or like skull crusher kind of stuff. And then
mhm.
if they're, I ask them how it is, and then they'll be like, oh, it's a little heavy. And I'll be like, that's okay, just try your best. And then um they'll be like, then they'll do a couple reps and then start shaking their head.
Oh my God. There's no better place for a dad joke than in the gym, for sure. Because everybody's so serious that it's like, wait, what? That's good. That's good. Now, final question for you. I know, like I said, we've covered so much good stuff, but we always got to end on this one, which is every single guest leaves a question for the next guest without
Mhm.
knowing who the heck they are. But I dropped the ball and totally forgot to ask Ronnie, who was our last guest, Ronnie
Oh.
Dupert. But I have one because it's topical and I have a feeling you've got a good answer for this. So I gotta ask, being that it's behind you, what is the best Dragon Ball Z character and why?
What is the best Well, everyone
Or
who's
who
kind of,
is?
most people who are kind of into lifting like us always kind of relate to Vegeta.
Hmm.
Um, I especially relate to Vegeta in the powerlifting side. There was one instance where I really felt like Vegeta, where the when I first started, like there was a state record for deadlift for the division. I think I was the 165 division, and it was quote unquote only like 490 pounds or something, only. And I was like, oh, I,
Only.
like, so it's like preparing for the meet. Um, I want to hit 500, like 500 pounds, because that would be that would set the record, and B, be the first time I deadlift triple body weight in a meet. And then I did that, and it was like, all right, like that's the like that was like my dream. Like I never even dreamt of anything higher than triple body weight, because back then that was actually kind of like a very respectable goal. Now like everybody and their kids deadlift triple body weight, but um
Yeah. It's like
so
the
I
mile, like the 4 minute mile. As soon
yeah.
as it gets broken, everybody breaks it.
So I did that, and then, but then my friend who usually competed in like equip lifting, he decided to do a raw meet at the same weight class. And right after I deadlift 500 and got my triple body weight goal, he deadlifted 680. My friend Edwin
Jeez.
Mono, the phenom, he did 4 times body weight, and I was like, I never even thought that was like even within the realm of dreaming of 4 times body weight. And right after I accomplished my like quote unquote life goal of triple body weight, he did that.
Yep. Then
Like, wow,
you
that
go from
definitely
feeling huge to about this big.
that was definitely a very Vegeta-like feeling where, oh, I've attained whatever Super Saiyan, and then here comes Goku right after I'm Super Saiyan like 3. It's like, didn't even know that level was possible. Didn't even have dreams of a 4 times body weight deadlift. Um, I was like, wow, got a long way to go there.
Yep. Yep. Hey, there's always something, there's always that next goal. And I think that's what a lot of people need to realize is that there's no like end. It's always just hit this goal and then figure out what the next one is. And as long as you keep doing that, you're always going to have something to strive for and it's going to keep it fresh and fun, right?
Yeah, and then like things like seem unattainable from initially, and then one of my other friends said like, oh, like I never really worried about records and stuff because I was decently strong when I started, but nothing like a phenom or like people are like gonna post me on Instagram or anything. But he's like, oh, don't if you do it long enough, records will come. Like, don't worry about those. Like, yeah, I'm not really worried about it anyway, but thank you. And then like that same meet, my friend Ed, at the 165 division set the squat record for that one at like 512 pounds, something like triple body weight squat, which I thought was like that's crazy
Wow.
too. Like I never even knew triple body weight squat was possible. Um, and then I think I was only squatting like 380 or 390 at the time, and I was like, wow, that's I'm never even gonna smell like 500 pound squat in my life. Like no way. And then fast forward to like today, and then it's like, wow, I'm actually like not that far from what he said that I thought was impossible to ever even dream of. I hit the 485 squat, and I'm actually in a weight class lower now, so the 148 pound division. So I got credit for a 485 pound squat, and my last attempt was actually 501, which is only 11 pounds shorter than what I thought was impossible. Um, and I actually got it if you see the video, but I got called. It didn't count because I didn't hit depth. I just missed it by like an inch or
Depth.
two. Yeah, which for most people who don't do powerlifting watch the video and like, oh, what's wrong with that squat? Like it looks pretty good. But even I
Yep.
kind of
Yep.
knew when I hit, I was like, ah, that might be a little short. And then sure enough, like the two judges said it was short. I was like, ah, I kind of knew it, but I stood up with 501 pounds at 148 pound body weight, so that's pretty good, I think.
Hey, in one judge's eye, you did it. So
Yeah,
just that's the only judge that counts.
yeah. 1 for 3. That I would like 1 for 3 is pretty good in baseball.
Exactly. You're hitting what,
Three, three,
3 3
three.
3? Yeah. Well, that
Did I
that
answer your
was
question? Yeah,
good.
Vegeta, yeah, is the most
I like
related. Um, and it's like Goku or Vegeta, right? Is pretty much the default answers. Some people
well,
may like,
yeah.
or maybe Gohan, but they're the best characters because they kind of feed off each other, right? Vegeta's only as popular or works as hard as he does because of Goku, and
Hmm.
Goku is popular. Well, he's the main character, and it's like Vegeta kind of lifts him up as well. So they go hand in hand. If you like one, you kind of gotta like the other.
Yeah. And it honestly makes me want to go back and watch because in all honesty, I have not watched Dragon Ball Z since I was maybe 10 and I went on a good tear and I'm like, I got to get back into it. That was one of those where you can always jump back in. Like I
Yeah.
started rewatching Avatar and like about a year ago and I'm like, this is just as good, if not better. So I feel like Dragon Ball Z is like next up on the anime train.
Yep, and they've got like new episodes and stuff, or like when they started Dragon Ball Super, which kind of got people kind of into it again.
Hmm. Cool. Well, I'll have to definitely check that out. But after House of the Dragon, first things
Oh yeah.
first.
Oh,
All right.
actually, um, I
Oh,
think
what? You got more?
Cheetos Funkos at the top.
What are those?
The Funko Pops at the top. Can you see them?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Those are my wife's House of Dragon, Game of Thrones Funko collection. They're all from Game of Thrones and House of Dragon.
Oh, nice.
The whole
Now,
top.
is she team black or team green?
Oops. I actually don't know. I never asked her that.
Oh, it's a key trait.
I mean, our
You
gym
gotta,
color is green, so
well,
but
I hate to say that I'm team black then, but you never know. Maybe she'll jump over regardless of colors. Who knows?
I'll ask her that after. I don't know if yeah, I've never
Well,
asked her that.
yeah, definitely let me know. I'm interested now. But I think that's good for one podcast. I think that that's enough for everybody to chew on for today. So thank you, Blake, for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure having you on here and speaking your wisdom from over the years of powerlifting, coaching other people. I know a lot of people definitely got a lot out of this. So really, man, thank you. I appreciate you taking the time.
No, I appreciate you having me on. Thanks, man.
Of course, of course. And everybody listening, if you do anything at all today, if you heard one thing during this podcast where you're like, oh my God, that was so good, when Blake said something or anything around squatting or anything we talked about, and you're like, I know somebody that needs to hear this, go send it their way. Me and Blake will say thank you in advance. And until next time, guys, have a great rest of your week. We'll see you same time, same place next week. But until then, go kick some ass. I'll see you later.